This is breaking quite early, great news, because Tony Blair has actually attacked Sir Keir Starmer's net zero plans and called for a radical reset of the government's green agenda. The former Prime Minister said it was wrong that people were being asked to make financial sacrifices when they know that their impact on global emissions is minimal. Well, let's have a chat with the Director of Net Zero Watch, Andrew Montford. Andrew, is this music to your ears at last?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my first reaction to this was, well, Mr. Blair, where have you been for the last 15 years? Because it's been patently obvious that net zero has been far too expensive and is damaging lives and is damaging the economy for ages. Everybody knows that. And so why has it taken Tony Blair so long to speak up? Yeah. That was my first concern. But the other thing is, you actually go and look at the report that he's launching. These remarks he made were in the foreword to a report published by his institute. You look at the rest of the report, it's the same old nonsense about climate emergencies and we have to do renewables. And so the theme seems to be, we've been doing it all wrong, but we'll do the same thing, just maybe slightly differently or with slightly different emphasis. So it may be less than we might have hoped for, but you never know. I think if Tony Blair has well-developed political antennae, doesn't he? So, he can probably tell that things are changing, and he probably wants to end up on the right side of history on this particular area. So, yeah, he may be positioning himself ahead of the curve, as it were.
The thing is, though, most people are, I don't mind there being some level of renewable energy. I have no problem with that. In fact, I think we should use whatever we have. But I draw the line at wind farms, solar panels everywhere. And wasn't it Ed Miliband who was talking about sort of blanking out the sun, but yet he's pushing for solar panels? Did you hear about all of that?
Yes, I heard about that. Yeah, it is crazy, of course, that we are looking to expand the use of solar power at the same time as looking to dim the sun. I mean, the whole sun dimming thing is bonkers on so many levels. I mean, we already know more people die from cold in most countries in the world, surprisingly, not just in the northern hemisphere countries like the UK, but all over the world. More people die from cold. So making the planet colder is really not going to be a good thing. The whole thing is completely insane. I think you're wrong, though, Nana, when you say that we should have, it's okay to have some renewables. It basically isn't, because as soon as you build some renewables, you don't get to close anything else down. So you just make people poorer. You add to the costs. So, I think we have to get away from this idea that a little bit of renewables is okay. It really isn't, unless your renewables is hydro. You can have hydro if you want. But basically, we need to get back to things that are reliable and will do the job and won't cause the grid to fall over, as it did in Spain and Portugal yesterday.
But some would argue that the problem is actually that the grid needed upgrading in those places. So they had let it. This is Angela Knight. I spoke to her earlier, and she said, obviously, she's not a net zero zealot. She does think that we could use, she's probably more like me. I think that if you've got the sun and it's free and you've got water that you can use, that you can get energy from, and you've got all other things, then you should find some way of harnessing it. But the point really was that the concept of net zero, really, ultimately, for me, is it just time to ditch it altogether? And is it, in your view, an impossible thing to reach?
Yeah, what do we mean by impossible? It's impossible to the extent that we just can't afford it. And it is probably also impossible to the extent that we probably can't actually have an electricity grid that will contain the amount of renewables that you need. I mean, essentially, you need 100% of renewables, and as the Spanish situation shows us, that makes the grid incredibly unstable. So I think it's probably impossible on those grounds as well. Scientists, maybe scientists will invent something that will stabilize a renewables-dominated grid. They're trying. And those technologies have been deployed in Spain, but clearly they don't work in all circumstances. We know that because their grid fell over. So I think this is we are powering ahead without sort of solving the problems first. You know, it's very much a case of, throughout net zero, it's been let's plow ahead and deal with the problems as they come along. But you just can't do that with electricity grids, because if your grid falls down, it's really, really serious. I hate to think how things like hospitals have been managing in Spain for the last 24 hours. You know, did they have enough backup power to run? Who knows? I don't know.
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, it's the infrastructure, isn't it? It's like saying everybody buy an electric car, but there's no chargers. Andrew Montford, thank you very much.